Okay, I'm just going to get started if that's all right. So I think we have Leah, Rose, and Sam online at the moment. So a very warm welcome to you. Um, Firstly, just a little bit about me. I have just taken over as the course lead for our Masters of Science pre-registration program. Donna Wynne, who was my predecessor, she is also the lead now for physiotherapy as a whole, but will also head up our doctorate of physiotherapy program as well. So I wanted this afternoon just to give, this afternoon for us, it's 4 p.m. our time. Um, and the plan would be just to give you a very brief sort of overview in terms of sort of deadlines and arrangements for potential applications for our program. Um, First of all, a little bit about RGU. We're a small university in the northeast of Scotland, so you maybe want to have a look at your map and locate us. We're based in Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland, a lovely part of the world. And probably very similar to parts of Canada in terms of climate, etc. We have just been voted as the second in the UK for physiotherapy, so we're feeling very proud of ourselves, and we consistently maintain our position in the top 5 in the UK on the various rankings over here. So we are a great choice in terms of that, and potentially have really good connections with Canada. Historically, we recruit a lot of students through from Canada, and because of our arrangement with the Canadian Alliance, are great in terms of supporting you on your return home. Although we occasionally have students who choose to stay because of they enjoy themselves so much, but there are some visa considerations in terms of that. So I'm just going to move forward onto my next slide, if that will let me. Okay, so in terms of this year's intake, our program is not a classic sort of September to September. It's a January to January run program, so maybe slightly different from some of the others you might be considering in Canada. We would be looking at entry on the 20th of January 2020 for our applicants. If you are looking for entry in this coming year, then we would really strongly advise that you get your application in before the end of July 2019, so that before the end of July this year. The reason for that is that we like to come out to Canada and meet our potential applicants and candidates, and so the last international interviews that we have are going to be at the end of August. So really to allow me and our team, our admissions team, to process your application in good time, ideally we would like those applications in by the end of July this year for consideration in terms of 2020 entry. So that's, I've put that in red for you because that's probably a really pertinent piece of information for you for this year. We come out to Canada twice a year. We were out in January, February, early February this year, and we had a conference that we needed to attend, so it was maybe a little earlier than we normally come. But we come out twice a year, and that's normally consistently sort of February, March time, and then in August, early September as well. So if you were successful in getting your application in, we would potentially look forward to meeting you then. And those interviews will be in Toronto. So I've just put that up there for you. Myself and my colleague Anne Wallace are coming out to Toronto on the 26th of August, where I think we're going to spend 3 days interviewing, and then pop down briefly to New York to interview some potential DPT candidates there. So that would be the deadline, and we love coming over to actually meet our applicants. We feel it's really, really important that we have face-to-face connection with you. We need to see that you're people, and we like to see you sort of working in terms of practicality and group work, etc. So it gives us a really nice opportunity to meet you, and of course for you to meet us, so that you get a real feel for the program, and maybe there's the sort of team that's likely to be teaching you. Okay. A couple of kind of key things and probably useful things to know about the style of learning that we have and teaching that we have here at RGU. It's probably quite different from that which you might have had, certainly at undergraduate level in Canada. Um, but you know, it may be similar to some of the postgrad programs that you would be looking at. We've got a very student-led approach. If you're coming expecting what we would classify academically as a didactic style of teaching, where you've got lectures and you're spoken at and you sit and you write notes and you learn that way, well, that's not going to happen here at RGU. We really want to encourage a very active learning style. We know it's evidence based in terms of teaching pedagogy, so it's it's a really supportive environment, student led, almost a flipped classroom approach that you'll have. Um, very much thinking a little bit about directed study. Where you look at and assimilate the theoretical knowledge. And what we will do in terms of our teaching is we will teach you how to apply those that theoretical background. And so the majority of our teaching is done in terms of practical classes, applied practical work, and tutorial workshop-based classes where there's a significant amount of group work, and thinking about how do we take that theory and apply it to the individual and to the specific patients and client groups that we're going to be working with as physiotherapists. Okay. The other important thing to know about the style of learning and the course design that we have here at RGU is that it's a spiral curriculum. So what we mean by that is that we're not kind of going to teach you in silos. Traditionally, physio has very much been taught as MSK, so musculoskeletal, maybe respiratory, neurology, etc. So very much in sort of boxes and sections. That's not going to happen here because patients don't come in silos. They don't come with just one problem. You'll discover that we're all human beings, and maybe we'll have a knee problem, but are also presenting maybe with a mental health disorder or a cardiovascular issue as well. So if we teach you in a combined way, integrating all the evidence and the support and the various different aspects of physio as we go through the program, you'll become much better practice ready clinicians at the end. So we're confident, and we know because our educators are supporting us, and our graduates are really, really practice ready, and they kind of get snapped up like that when they qualify. So we know what we're doing is right, and so we'll get you the background and the baseline within first year, and then moving through into second year, we'll develop that in terms of its complexity and depth in a really sort of nice elevated spiral curriculum, building up your knowledge and ultimately turning out really practice ready students and graduates. Okay. You see just at the bottom there's a point in terms of volunteer patients and simulation. We have a really nice clinical skills environment, and in fact some of our lecturers here are doing quite a lot of research into the simulation and its impact on learning and teaching physiotherapy. So we like to use simulation and our volunteer patients to come in and allow you to practice your skills before we set you loose on the public, so to speak. Now, I guess one of our kind of key selling points again in terms of RGU are our placements, and the fact that we get you out on placement as soon as possible. You'll start with us in the January, and by the end of May, you will be out on placement, and that's not a shadowing placement. That's a real practicing placement, and so you get to learn and to practice those skills just as soon as possible. Really, as soon as you've got those sort of taught to you, you'll be putting those into place in terms of your placements, which will be sort of then evenly spread throughout the 2 years, 6 placements across 2 years. Now, 2 seconds. I think we've just been joined by Simone, who's set up this webinar for us here. So I'm just going to pause for 2 seconds. Oh, no, she's suggesting I just carry on in terms of that. But Simone may just join me on camera in a little minute. She'll hopefully be able to support us in terms of any of the questions that you have. Here we are. Welcome to Simone. Okay, so in terms of the placements, we have 6 placements. 5 of those we'll offer and put together for you. We have a placement coordinator, and that will give you a really nice profile of placements across the the 2 years, giving you a range of different skills, different aspects of physiotherapy, MSK, neurology, respiratory, etc. Your final sixth placement is an elective placement, and that gives you the choice to go on an additional placement that might give you something, an area that you've got a specific interest in, um, and or potentially the opportunity to go and practice in other parts of the world. We have a number of students um, who go and travel. We've had some in Nepal and Europe, etc. So there are opportunities with that final elective placement for you to explore yourselves. All right. Um, the placements themselves assessed on a pass-fail. We don't assess those at master's level. All the academic work and written work and coursework, those are the things that are assessed at that master's level in terms of that. That's hence it is a pre-registration master's. You're not advanced practitioners at this point in time. Okay. The other information about placements is there for you. So they range between 5 and 6 weeks in length. And yeah, really give you a really nice broad profile. And the one really nice thing for you if you're traveling from Canada is that you get an opportunity to travel across the length and breadth of Scotland for those placements, because we look at our clinical sites from as far north as Shetland and Orkney right down to the borders in Scotland, where in fact I'm travelling to see a couple of students this coming weekend. So it gives you a range of opportunities to see our beautiful country, and it also yeah, gives you a different range of clinical skill mix as well, from acute kind of teaching style, large teaching style hospitals through to our more rural community based physiotherapy. So again, a really broad skill mix, which again creates a very practice ready graduate. Okay. Please be mindful, because you're going to have a little bit of travel with your placements, that there will be additional travel costs potentially that you need to consider and factor in, and or potential accommodation costs for that as well. Okay, so we want to just make sure that you're aware of that. All right, now this next slide, hopefully if it's going to come up, just gives you a very brief overview of the profile of the course itself. So this takes you through first year, where we have a couple of large modules through on and into your first placement, and then you come back for physiotherapy practice after your summer vacation. So we do give you, we're very generous, and we give you a 3-week summer vacation, and a lot of students choose to go home at that time. So you're then back in, and you have a further clinical placement and continue on with physiotherapy practice 2, where you then take a break for Christmas, etc. There is an assessment period, normally early in January or towards the end of December, and then you come back for further placements and progressing on into your second year. You'll see just in March in your second year, that's when we put into place the research project that you'll undertake, and that consists of potentially some data collection and or systematic review, so primary or secondary research that is generally directed by a group of our clinicians here at the university. And we all have very broad general specific interests, I suppose, in terms of clinical practice, etc. Okay, so you'll be offered a research topic, you'll be given a selection of different ones to choose from, and normally our students get a choice of either their first or their second project choice. That goes through. If you're data collecting, you'll carry that out before you then go on to your 4th clinical placement, have a break for the summer, come back for your 5th placement, complete your project, and an enhancing services and practice module. Somewhere in the middle of here, we have a little retreat for you, away to a little Scottish house in the middle of the countryside here. And then you come back for your elective placements from there, post submission of your research papers. And then that's you. Your 2 years is up, and it'll be finished quicker than you know it. And you'll actually be able to start earning back some of the money that you've spent on the program. All right, so that's the summary of the year. Just a few additional considerations for you. Obviously, you should be thinking about in advance what your visa options are. There are a couple of links in terms of accommodation, etc., and maybe Simone can maybe give us some support if you have questions on those there. But essentially, you know, the visa information, international students are going to be supported by our immigration team here. And that process needs to take place once you've accepted. So we'll interview you, we'll offer you a place, but that doesn't happen that sort of can't get processed until you start looking towards payment of deposit, etc., which is normally from October onwards, to allow you a bit of time to start planning the move over. All right. So potentially there may be more questions about that. And then just a very brief, I mean, this probably more considerations if and when you were offered a position on the course, but there are just a few bits of information you need to be taking into account. So we do request that you look towards having an immunisation record. There are various Scottish policies that require our students to be immunised against, I guess, some of the more common conditions that you might be coming across within the hospital settings here. You're required to undertake a full criminal record check, and within Scotland we have what's called the Protection of Vulnerable Groups, so PVG, which everyone will be required to do when they first attend in induction week. All right, but your criminal record would be from the country that you've been in, so that would need to be, you need to be ensuring that you provide evidence that you have no ongoing criminal record at all in terms of the past history of that, okay, from a registration perspective. Okay, so I think that probably brings me to the end of my little chat. Apologies if I've gone on a little bit. But I suppose Simone and I now are here and welcome to answer any questions you have. I presume if I'm going to hear any questions, I'm not sure I'll hear anything from yourselves directly, and I'm presuming at this point you'll maybe type some comments in the box, but Simone might keep you right as well. Okay, so I look forward to any questions you have, and thank you for joining me today. So, Rose, yes, thank you for your question. Hopefully you can hear my response. Yes, there is a specific GPA. We require our students to come in for consideration on a GPA of at least 3.0 out of 4.0. So that is equivalent to what our UK qualification requirement would be, which is the equivalent of a 2-1 degree classification here in the UK. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question. Any other questions? Please type away if you have. So Sam, that's a good question. The interview is not one-to-one, so there'll be two of us who come over from RGU, and you will be in a group interview. So actually, when I say it's not one-to-one, there are a number of different components to the interview. There's a little group discussion. There is a little group task in terms of working together within a group. So I guess the interview ranges between 4 and 6 people in an interview. Okay, once you've undertaken the group aspect, we then send you away and take you back in for a brief sort of 15-minute one-to-one interview. And within that, there is also a small practical task as well. So the interview process we've sort of tried and tested, and it's very much, it's a graded, we grade you on your interview score in terms of that there. So we're essentially selecting you on a points basis rather than on numbers, if that makes sense. Okay, so hopefully that answers that. All right, so Rose, are there prerequisite subjects required? Essentially, there are on paper, but I'm just going to slightly categorize that as well. Our prerequisites, ideally, because most of you from Canada come from a kinesiology background, although I'll explore more about that. Anatomy and physiology are our main prerequisites. Obviously, we start the program off and we expect you to have a baseline level of knowledge in terms of anatomy and physiology. origins, insertions, innervations of muscles, actions, etc. Okay, so that we would request. But having said that, we do also consider applicants from non-traditional routes as well. And what we would tend to suggest, if there are applicants who are coming in, that they would either undertake additional study in terms of anatomy and physiology, or some of them we actually suggest that they come and undertake the first semester of our undergraduate program, which gives them the relevant amount of anatomy and physiology as well. So please, if you're sitting there without a kinesiology or a science-based previous degree, that doesn't exclude you from applying for our program. We would openly encourage people to come from non-traditional routes, but bear in mind that we would require you to undertake additional prerequisites of the anatomy and physiology beforehand. The only other thing we do also require, ideally, is the sorry, I'm just seeing another question coming through, I'm getting distracted, is that you have some research experience. So normally that takes the form of research methods, understanding of critical writing and literature, review of literature, and preferably some form of sort of capstone type project, some sort of research dissertation or extended literature review as well, just so that you come to us with the basics of research understanding, because again, we don't teach those skills. We expect and anticipate that you already have those. Okay. So Sam, is there a student quota for the program? We don't have set numbers. I'll be honest in terms of that. We've got a rough idea of the sort of numbers that we are having. But in terms of our interview process, if you meet the requirements for our interview, you will be offered a place. It's not on a first come, first serve basis. Once we get to our numbers, we don't stop interviewing. We will review and interview anyone who meets the requirements for the program. And following that interview, if you impress us and you demonstrate the skills and attributes required, then you will be offered a place. So it's not a numbers game for us here at RGU. We're very much open to offering anyone who demonstrates the appropriate attributes and skills required for physiotherapy. Okay, I'm wondering whether Simone can answer the next question in terms of the fees and scholarships at all.
So for the pre-reg, this is the fees. Hold on. Right. So for the pre-reg, these are the fees and also the entry requirements, and basically that page would tell you all the information that you need. For the scholarships, there's also a page for that, and I will also send that to you. For for Canada specific ones, I would say that they are the Chevening, the Saltire Scholarship, because it's a postgraduate one. It's a Commonwealth Scholarship Commission scholarship. The fixed one would be the RGU Financial Award. And if you, yep. So that's the few that's there, and I've given it both the links to the fees as well as the scholarships for you to look through. But feel free to email me if you have further questions. I'm giving my email out here, so if there's anything, just drop me an email and I will attend to them. And obviously, KOM, who's our agent there, will be able to assist you as well.
Sam, you might not want to know. So, the weather at the moment is actually really sunny, but no, it's fairly inclement. We are East Coast Scotland though, so we get much less rain than the West Coast. In terms of that, there, it's not as warm as Canada in the summer, but it's not as cold as Canada in the summer. Um, in terms of that, that's probably all you need to know there. But we have a very warm welcome, so you don't need to worry about the weather. You want to?
Yeah. Right. As Victoria was saying about the weather in Scotland, I would say that we are kind of mild. There's no extreme weather in terms of the winter time or the summertime as well. So summer right now is about 20-ish. Nighttime can be maybe 11 or 15. So it's not too harsh, which I think it's easy to stomach for quite a lot of people. Because during winter, I think the lowest is maybe -10, maybe. That's considered extreme if it's -10. Usually, yeah, in Celsius, and usually it hovers around -5 or something like that. In terms of life in Aberdeen, really depends on what you're looking for. So if there's wildlife, you can do hikings. During the weekend, there's also drinking and partying. Oh, need to be mic closer. So there's also clubs, pubs, cafes, all sorts of things to be honest. So um, what kind of it depends on what kind of lifestyle you're looking for. So I would say it's a nice size as well. We have about 250,000 people staying in Aberdeen, so it's not too big like how London is, and it can be quite overwhelming, especially if you're moving to another country. And then I feel that Aberdeen gives you a nice balance, and it's not too far away from everything. So if you want to do a weekend to Edinburgh, for example, a train ride away, and you can easily do that for like a day trip if you don't want to spend money in Edinburgh and yet still be able to enjoy yourself and go for trips. There's also plenty of castles, parks, mountains for hiking that are all free of charge, so you don't really need to pay for a lot of entertainment for the weekend if that's how you would like to say. I know of students here who tend to have house parties as well. So it depends on what you're looking for, I guess, and what's your cup of tea. Yeah, sure.
So just a little bit about our physio intake and our groups, because it's roughly anywhere between 30 and 40 students within our cohort. So it's a really nice close knit group of students. You'll make friends for life in terms of the physio program itself. You'll get to meet students who are in second year, and they very much show you the ropes, and you can get support in terms of accommodation and where to eat and all the rest of it there. So it's a really warm and welcoming environment. And in terms of our physio team, you will each be allocated a personal tutor as well. So you're given support through all of the time that you're here at RGU. It's a very supportive university network. Um, there's sporting opportunities as well in terms of various clubs and groups, and that we always allow free time on a Wednesday afternoon for you to participate in those as well. So it's a real range of different things, and it will be what you make of it. And the majority of our students have a really fabulous time with us. I would have said here at RGU, it's a lovely a sort of family, sort of community type feeling, I suppose, because it's a slightly smaller, close-knit program. Okay.
I guess one thing to add is that as a alumni myself from RGU, I realized that the lecturers here are very approachable and helpful. So if you're struggling with something, the lecturers here are more than happy to assist you. And you can if you read some of our student testimonials, this vibrates, and it comes out from many students from different countries, and that's the same shared experience that we have when we studied here in RGU, is that the lecturers are very, very accommodating and helpful, and try they really I really feel that they're very approachable, and that's one of the best things about RGU, to be honest. Yeah. Is there any other questions? Nope. So can I say that this will conclude? Okay. You're most welcome, Rose. If there's any more questions that you might have forgotten to ask today, and something that pops into your mind, just drop me an email. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you very much. And goodbye.